Hi everyone, it's me again. I'm going to be, first time I've done a stream on my chess channel. Twitch is working right now as well as YouTube. So, I'm actually live on my Chris Chess Corner channel. I have a total of 6 channels, but I haven't used this in ages. But I used to have a chess blog on Red Hot Porn. No, not the porn site, the actual chess site. To be honest, I have no idea if it's still there. It's probably taken down ages ago, but we'll find out. If it's still there or not. Probably not. I mean, oh no, it's there. Arch Rifle Chess Corner. So maybe it's time I started doing that again. You can come onto here, and I started doing lessons where we're trying to teach people it's trying to teach the middle ground. It's not for beginners. It's those who actually want to, they're not grandmasters or anything, but there are actually, these are my previous ones and stuff like that, and I'll be going through all of them. I will also be going to just basically going from the start, Chess 101 to actually playing and stuff like this. Now the thing is, there are so many different variations of chess: Chinese chess, 4-player chess, and all these different rules. And it's really easy to get confused, and it actually makes it so you actually have problems. Chess, forgive the French, but the game chess actually mind fucks you. It is an actual game of physical and mental warfare. You need to have a plan before you come to sit down at the board of the table. Now, I used to play a long time ago in England for my local club and once for the country. A proper chess game will last up to 3 hours. The time control that I was used to was an hour and a half, and then 20 minutes extra when you get to 30 moves. In tournament games, it's an hour and a half or an hour long, and then when you get to 40 moves, you get 15 minutes. But and then whoever gets checkmate or loses on time, or the flag for loses. It sounds straightforward, yes, but no, it's not. Because let's see. Thank you for the host, Ontario Studios. So there are exceptions to almost every rule in chess. So what I mean by that is if your flag falls on time, you normally would lose. But if your opponent doesn't have sufficient material to win, then it's a draw, not a win. Like some people would know that they're not gonna win. They don't try to win, and they just keep moving backwards and forwards. First of all, if you do that, you're a complete ass. Second of all, it's a draw because you can't win. So normally you have no pawns on the board, and you're just trying to run out the clock on your opponent. You know that you can't win, he can't win. The only thing is that he has a minute left on the clock while you have 15 minutes. So you just keep going backwards and forwards. You have no chance of winning. So you're just trying to run out the clock. That's a draw. So this is my current that was my profile that was on Reddit Porn. I haven't subscribed in ages, but I have a lot of games. So please take a look at my blog. I will get back to being active on that again. Green Porn and Planet Green Porn, and also chess.com. They all have lessons. It doesn't matter what medium you choose. Just start playing chess. It's easy to learn, but difficult to master. I believe they say after the first 3 moves on either side, you got 3 million possibilities. So it's a complicated game. So the first thing that I do with people is I have them sit down and look at the board. I take all the pieces off the board and just say, here's the chessboard. How many positions, how many shapes and do you have? Because and I do cover this in one of my lessons actually, and it's just here, box vision. Half the time when people play, they only see 4x4 squares of a chessboard, and it ruins the game for them. So I purposely keep my bishops and queen on the long diagonals, because I know that when my opponent is looking at the board, they're only seeing part of the board, not the entire board. The way that you overcome that is by getting very familiar with the 64 squares on the board. So this is again one of the lessons, and it's very easy to see when someone is under that influence, where they can only see part of the board, not the entire board. And it's like they have blinkers on, and it's very, it can be very frustrating, but it's not, for the person that is. So the second of all, when you come to sit down at the chessboard, the first thing that you need is a plan. You need a plan of what you're going to do. Second of all, the most important part of the chess game is the middle game. You gotta know how to play the end game, but if you can't play the middle game, you're not going to be able to get to the end game. So, and it doesn't matter who you're playing against. It doesn't. It really doesn't. So most of the time, in fact, the hardest person for you to be able to beat is yourself. Half the games that you lose, it's going to be because of you losing to yourself, because you psych yourself out. When I was in my teens, I was under the influence that the girls who were female players are better, that they're good. I was not being sexist, but in a way I was kind of the opposite. I was putting them on the pedestal. So when I ended up playing against them, I already lost before I even sat down, because my mind told me I had no chance of winning. Your mental game, your mental perspective is key if you're ever going to play chess. I got tons of games that I've been playing. 224 on that clan. These ones I lost because I probably timed out because I didn't come back. But so what I'm going to do, just so you're not going to stare at a screen all the time, I'm waiting for Battle Chess to download, and we'll play on that too. But first of all, I'm just gonna play, or try and play. I'm gonna play against the computer first because the instant games are kind of bad. You are supposed to learn to play both colors. Personally, I prefer black. They say white has the advantage of being able to move first, but I like being able to respond better than. I don't like the pressure of actually. I don't actually like. I like the ability to respond and not have the pressure of deciding what the game. White has the added pressure of dictating what the game's going to start out as. If you play king pawn, it's going to be an open central attack. If it's the queen's pawn, it's going to be close play, slow, gritty moves. You're going to need the knights and the horses and everything to come out. So my style of teaching is towards people that already know what the pieces are and know how they move and know the basic principles of the game. Now, learning to play against a computer is okay, but you're gonna keep in mind that the computers aren't going to win. They aren't playing to win, they're playing to draw. And that's one of the key differences. A person is going to try and beat you. By that I mean outthink you, outsmart you, and try to get you to make the more mistakes. The computer can't do that. It's using algorithms and what it thinks is the best moves, and it doesn't count in the human aspect. So this is just level 1 of the computer, and this is a valid opening that he's done, e3, but it's not a usual one that you're going to see. Normally you have to know the rules before you break the rules, so I would do my normal bishop's opening, sacrificing, blah blah blah. But for the purpose of this video and the live stream, I am just going to go ahead and just play how you should when you're starting out. Normally, you can play for the first 20 moves, and you should be able to play for the 20 moves and do whatever you want, regardless of what white does or the opponent does. So I know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to play my opening, let him do whatever he wants to do, not attack, unless he forces me to. So right away, I, as black, have my pieces developed. Normally you don't move your queen until you have to, until you want to. But I moved it up. So white is now when you do this, your opponent has to guess which side you're going to castle. If you choose to delay castling, it can have an effect on your opponent because they have to decide which side they're going to attack on. And depending where your king is, that's where their attack needs to be. So just because I move the queen up doesn't guarantee I'm going to castle queenside, but the possibility is there. But I, as black, knows that his king's castle kingside, so I want to get my rooks on the kingside and go for a kingside attack. And this is me, like I said, keeping the bishop on the long diagonal. So this bishop is something that's always going to be a problem on on white's mind. There's only 2 pawns there in front of him and the king. So so now I got my pieces developed. He basically has his pieces developed, except he's got his bishop stuck. That would be considered bad because it's trapped. It's not going anywhere. Basically, this is a very defensive opening for white. It's someone that isn't aggressive, and it comes out that way too. Now, normally I would sacrifice the bishop and take the pawn on h3. It doesn't mean it's good, but bishop pawn takes, bishop queen takes, and then you have the knight to come up there, or you can do bishop. Oh no, you can't because the bishop's there. Good thing I looked first. Look before I leap. So what I was thinking was bishop there, bishop takes pawn, pawn takes bishop, and then queen recaptures. I lose a pawn, 2 pawns for a piece, but I was thinking I could get the knight to g4 and I would have a threat mate on h2. However, when the knight comes to g4, the bishop on white's e2 can recapture, supported by white's queen. So if I recaptured with the queen, queen takes queen, and black would be in a really bad position right now. So I got really no choice here. I gotta make my position better and just castle. Now, this is white's attempt to try and force the issue. You don't have to take. Now, he's coming to attack the knight and also the pawn. The knight is protected by the bishop. But if that doesn't create a problem per se. I want my rooks there anyway. And don't forget, knights can go back. You just got to be careful when you're pushing a pawn forward. You're going to lose the integrity of your pawns because they can't go back. But the other pieces can. His black bishop's blocked in. And this is where I would use my knight to go back. That's why I moved the queen up. Now he's probably going to move the pawn up next to attack the knight and to attack my queen at the same time. But I could just retake the bishop. So now he's starting to put his pieces in a position so he can attack on the queen side. Again, normally when you castle queen side, you're supposed to put the king over to b8. Like straight over, so it looks similar to the king side, but it's on the queen. I mean, this isn't, the way that I'm teaching is not for the people that are going to be grandmaster levels, it's for the intermediate levels. It's like people that play once every Friday for a couple of hours. And also a good way is to print out the notation sheets. You can get them anywhere, and actually practice writing down the moves as you make them, because that's how you play real chess. You have to, when you make a move, you have to write it down and then you press the clock. You have to move the same piece. You have to move the piece and press the clock with the same hand that you move the piece with. You can use both hands, but you can only use one hand at a time. and they do have that touching rule. Like if you touch a piece, you have to move that piece in official games. Like if I went ahead and did this, that would be considering touching the piece. I would have to move that piece. If I went ahead and touched this piece, I would have to take it. So you got to be careful what you do with your hands. If you're someone that's very fidgety and you're playing with someone across the board, sit on your hands. Like literally put your hands under your ass and sit on them, because what you touch, you have to move. If a piece is on the side of a square or on the edge of a square that you want to readjust, you have to pronounce I adjust or adjust, and then you're allowed to move that piece and put it back onto the square. So he went ahead and did the attack. So when a player moves, this is what you're going to be thinking. First, what has he left behind? First of all, he's left behind this square and the bishop. What has he done by making the move? He's pushed the pawn on. He's threatening to attack the knight and open up the queen side for my king, exposing the aisle, because a rook on an open aisle is very strong. So then you've got to answer the questions before you move. If I go ahead and move there, what am I leaving behind? The knight. Am I getting something for that knight? Yes, the bishop. Am I risking more than I'm gaining? Well, I'm gonna lose position. Like if I take the bishop, he takes the knight, I retake. He could come down here and take a pawn with the bishop. However, my queen is going to be here, protecting this pawn. So go ahead and do it. So now he's gone ahead and moved the knight to attack the queen. It's really tempting to go ahead and take that pawn, isn't it? Like you can attack the rook and so on, but no. Look before you leap. If I take the pawn, the knight would actually take the queen. I would lose a queen for a pawn. Queens worth 9 points, pawns are worth 1. But I could go here. Now, how many of you would actually go ahead and take that rook? How many of you would actually go and take this rook? Well, first of all, let's take a look. If I could actually do it, I would play the GIF or the meme music from Star Wars, It's a Trap. Why is it a trap? Well, first of all, let's play it out in our heads. Queen takes rook. White's move, knight to e3. The rook is now attacking the queen. And then the queen is suddenly trapped. It can't get out. It could take the pawn, but the queen would just take the queen. It could go back to this square, but the queen again would just get taken. It could take the pawn, but again the queen would take. Or queen takes rook, and then the king or bishop would have to take. So you actually got to work out technically, if you go ahead and take the rook, it's two queens. Actually, the queen's already trapped, look, because you can't actually go anywhere. Queen can't go back here, can't go here, can't go there, can't take the pawn. You could swap queens, and then knight takes queen. So there you go. That's right. There's a benefit of looking and thinking ahead. To beat some of the good players that are in chess, they see several moves ahead. So when you play the move, they already know what's going to happen. So one option is I could go 2 rooks for a queen, and technically I go up 1 pawn, because rooks are worth 5, queens are worth 9. So 5 plus 5 is 10, king takes queen is 9, you go up 1 pawn. But it's not just about points, it's actually about the material you have on the board and the position that you have got to think about. Can I win with what's left on the board? They will have a queen that's very effective and very strong, but have no rooks. I'll have no queen, but I will have 2 rooks, 2 knights, and 2 bishops. I have all my pieces. He's already lost a bishop. So again, this comes down to the human element that I'm talking about. The computer is aiming for a draw. It's not trying to beat me. It's trying to do everything it can to get an equilibrium and just draw the game. And this is the point where you as a human have to decide which way you want to go. Do you want to go for a win? Or do you want to go for a slow play win? If you go to swap queens, it's more than likely going to go into an end game, and you have to use what's left. Hey, Ferdic, thank you for joining us. I'm actually streaming live on my chess channel on YouTube as well as Twitch. As I was saying, this is the key point of when you're playing against a computer on any level. This is just level 1, basic computer. The computer doesn't factor in the human element. And we've gotten to the point where the human intuition comes into an effect and actually is required. The queen, the black queen, is trapped. Wherever it's going to go next move, it's going to get taken. Not that long. It was kind of off the cuff. About 28 minutes I've been on. So you have to decide what you as the player want. And this goes back to the point of that you need to have a plan before you start the game. If you have no plan, you're going to lose. So first of all, the choices are: you either swap the queen and go fair exchange, and then you've got to go toe to toe with what's left, knowing that you've got to be able to beat them with whatever's left. Or you could go for the technical advantage, because queen's worth 9, a rook's worth 5. If I take the rook, I'm going to get that rook as well. So it would be 5 plus 5 for an exchange of queen. They lose 10 pawns, I lose 9 pawns. I go up 1 pawn. but you have to then go against the queen, knight, and the bishop. With what you have left on the board as black, could you beat white? And if the answer to that is no, you have to play it safe and swap the queen. If you know as yourself that you can actually beat it and actually play the game, this is where experience comes into effect. You've got to know how to play. You've got to know what you're doing. You've got to know how to have a plan. And you've got to look at the entire board, not just the box. Like most people go 4x4 and they only see part of the board. They don't see my little bishop down here attacking. Right now that bishop's still a big thorn in the side of white. Only 3 pawns in the way between my bishop and his king. And I either swap the queens or the king. And you've got to be able to take in the entire picture that's on the board, not just the little square where your king is or where your queen is or where the action is. So this comes down to the human element. Let me see. Thank you for the host verdict. So I know I can play. I know the computer is going to do everything it can to get a draw against me. It's not going for the win. So I'm going to go ahead and take the rook. So it goes ahead and does that, which is surprising. I expect it to move the knight over here, which would have been the correct move. I take the rook, he takes the queen. But now I just go a whole rook up for nothing. So we now know that was a bad move. If he moves the knight, I take the rook and he exchanges it with the bishop instead of the king. He probably got the king off that black diagonal because he was feeling the pressure of the bishop, but I have my rooks. No, I mean, this is going to be this is the 101 for beginners. It's for those who want to be intermediate. So I didn't do the how to know what pieces do what. I assume you already know that to be able to come here. Because I went onto my Red Hot Pawn. I actually have a chess blog that I was doing lessons for a long time. And you can read all of the chess blogs and chess lessons that I did with the videos and such. And it's those who want to be intermediate level, not grandmasters. And like I understand that we're not perfect, but we're not. So now I actually got a way out for my queen now. I have 3 pieces attacking this pawn with only 2 pieces defending it. 1, 2, 3. This is the 101. I mean, this is going to be the 101 basic tutorial. It goes into more of the mental aspects of the chess. I mean, it doesn't cover the absolute basic how to move a piece and what a piece does and what it's called. But it goes into the basic elements, like how to read a board and how to stop focusing on one part of the board. Basically, everything I'm covering over is the basic lesson. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and do this. Well, he's giving me no choice. I have to take the rook. And there we go. So I went a pawn for nothing. I'm now 8 pawns up. So now as we discovered, I can go ahead and just take this pawn now because he's blocked his bishop. Pawn structure is for black is good. No, that's the intermediate part. En passant is basic, but the everything else, en passant is extremely basic moves. The strategies for setting your pieces in attack and defense, that goes into intermediate level, and that's what I'm covering. That's the that's actually middle game basics. That's not actually that isn't actually middle game. That actually isn't beginner stuff. Because they want you when you first start to play. They work on, first of all, knowing how the pieces move, and then just start playing, getting experience, and learning how to think. Because thinking is more important than actually knowing where the pieces go and what to do. Okay, so white again has just moved. He's put his knight in the center. So we have to look at what has he left behind. White has left behind this square. What was the knight doing before? It was protecting this pawn with the queen. Oh, okay. There was two pieces protecting that pawn. There was one piece attacking that pawn. What is it trying to do now that the knight is there? It's attacking this pawn, it's attacking that square, it's attacking this square, that square, protecting this pawn and that square and this square. It does a lot in the middle. It's not likely to go here because the knight would just take it, but then again the queen would just take back. The rook is protected by this knight, so this knight can't move. This rook can't move because the queen would just take the rook. So I can assume that there is no real threat here. There is no threat to me by him putting the knight there. So I can therefore assume it's safe for me to go ahead with my plan of attack, which is a kingside attack. I could either decide to do something about this pawn or not. I could push the pawn on. Pardon me. Okay, so I'm now going to go ahead and put the pawn up here. He goes ahead and pushes the pawn on, so that's the reason why he put the knight there, to support this pawn. I'm going to go ahead and take with the knight. That's fine. Now I want to put this pawn up to protect this one, because it was going after this pawn. Now there's only one pawn between the bishop and that square. Now he's attacking the rook, so we have to do something about that. We have to be careful because the queen is also attacking this rook, so we have to be careful about that as well. This rook is protecting this one, and vice versa. White is planning to put the pawn down here. I believe I can just take the pawn, because the queen's worth more than the rook. And then I can go ahead and do it again. I have to protect the bishop. Now they get to have that pawn because as soon as I move that knight, I didn't take it. Well, if you won't, I'll take this one. And now I win the bishop. No! Oh my god! And that's the dangers of overlooking. If you don't look, surprise! Don't assume. Don't get overconfident. And that's what happens. Oh, don't I have egg on my face? Oh, no. Wow, how did I even let that slip? I'm on Jay! Well, there you go. That's the dangers of getting overconfident and not looking before you move. That's what happens. Hi, boys. Go and lay down. Alright, so let's have a look. So yeah, it happens to all of us. You're never too good. You never stop lying. Don't stop. Like, I could have... I mean, it was obvious. I mean, like, soon as he moved, I should have realized what he was doing. The knight was there. I should have looked. I shouldn't... I mean, the fact that I didn't see it, I didn't pay attention. I mean, anything would have stopped it. If I put the knight here, he can't checkmate me. I get the knight. And then I can do this. He can't take that knight. Oh, I can't move it because it's pinned. Wow, that was really, really dumb. Why would you put the queen there? Well, that's just stupid because I would take the queen. Well, I'm going to take the rook. And then that's checkmate. So, that's the dangers. You've always got to answer those questions before you move and after they move. What did they leave behind? What are they attacking? What's the purpose of the move? And then before you move, you've got to answer, what am I leaving behind? Am I leaving anything exposed? Am I leaving anything to be attacked? And yes, I was. I left that to be attacked. That was bad. Yeah, the cats are here. I got the cats back. Thankfully. The people that were helping me weren't gonna allow them to bully me and but yeah, I mean, chess is a real complicated game, but it's a fun game. The importance when you come to sit down at any game is one, have a plan. If you sit down with no plan, you're going to lose. Second of all, you always have to ask yourself what are they doing and what am I doing before you even move or think about making a move, you look ahead, you look behind. Once you make sure it's safe, then you go ahead and move. And then you got to remember, when you're playing against computers, computers always go for the draw. They don't take into the account of the human initiative. People actually try to kill you. They actually try to beat you and mentally fuck you, and they will do everything to outwit you. And that is the major difference between a human player and a computer player. You have to take in the entire board. So when the very first time, my very first lesson to anyone, when I teach them chess for the first time, is I clear all the pieces off the board and have them stare at the board, and then look at the board and tell me how many shapes, how many patterns there are on the board. I want you to tell me how many blocks of 4x4 squares there are. There's 4 of them. One here, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4x4. One here, and one here, and one here. And you can go into patterns. How many squares are there on the entire chessboard? 64. Well, there's 64 squares. How many white squares are there? How many black squares are there? Are there even numbers or are there odd numbers? How many moves does it take for the knight to get on every single square on the board? I make sure you know every square of this board. I make sure you look at the entire board. Because the way that I've been getting people, including Verdict, is I have pieces outside of their peripheral vision. I know where they're looking at. I can see where you're looking at. I can see where you can't see. I know where your blind spots are. So when I have pieces on the outside, I know you're going to forget about them because you're focused on where my queen is or where my rook is, not the entire situation. And what happened to me just here is a perfect example. I was focused on the king and the bishop and all that. I didn't pay attention to the queen, and I got overconfident, overlooked, and boom, I paid the price for it. So Red Hot Pawn is a free chess site, so is chess.com. You don't have to pay to do anything to play regular games, but you do have to pay and you get a subscription to do clans and clubs. So if you want to join an online chess game club and stuff like that, you can always do this. Daily chess is like the old-fashioned post games. My brother used to do this. You write a move on a postcard, send it off in the mail, and a week later the person replies back, and you do it that way. That's the 1-day chess, 2-day chess. Live chess is like the actual clock games. Like I said, the original games that I'm used to, chess games can last a long time, like 3 hours. My time control was an hour and a half and 20 minutes at 30. Tournament rules for me were an hour and a half and then 15 minutes once you reach 40 moves. Again, there's always an exception to every single rule. There's always an exception. Like if there was ever, and let me just go through the en passant because I know this is new for Verdict. So the en passant is where a pawn has reached the 4th or 5th rank, and then the opposing color is like, well, if I push my queen pawn to d6 or f6, it's just going to get taken by that pawn. I know, I'm going to push it up twice so this pawn can't take it. Wrong! Because immediately after this move goes up, the pawn can take sideways, and that's called in passant or en passant. It is the only time a knight can take sideways. Again, white comes here, that's the move, and then white comes here, black thinks, oh, I'm not gonna get taken, I'm gonna put it here instead. Wrong. En passant. In passant. Now, if white goes ahead and does something else, like knight to them, and then black comes here, now you can't do en passant. You have to take it immediately after the move is done. You cannot do it once you've made another move. Let me do it on. So let me show you on the white side. The black comes here. White's thinking, oh no, he's got a pawn onto e4. If I play d3 or f3, the pawn's just gonna get taken. I know, I'm gonna play d4. En passant is in passant. And I have to do it immediately after the pawn has moved, otherwise you cannot do it. Also, if there is an exception to losing on time. If your time expires, but your opponent does not have sufficient material to mate, then the game is a draw. First of all, if you know that you can't win, and you're just trying to run out the clock, like it comes down to your opponent only has 1 minute, there's no way for you to beat him, so you just keep going backwards and forwards with the same piece until the time runs out. First of all, you're an ass for doing that. Second of all, it's a draw. So let's see. I want to set up my own board if I can, but it won't let me. I was going to set up my own board, but that's where this is. Well, not to worry, but the we've got analysis. So if we got let's just say we have nothing here. Let me show an example of that. So this would be a position of a technical draw. Black is ahead on time. White only has like a minute left on the clock. There is no possible way for black to win. All he can do is just keep checking. King does here, you know, king goes here, kings go here, king goes here. You know, there is no way for black to win. He's just stalling for time. He can draw, but he can't, you know, he's not going to win. He can take the pawn and stuff like that. This is a draw. It's going to end in a draw, but if black keeps doing this to win, like if there was only like a minute left on the clock and black does not have sufficient material to mate or win, it is a draw. It's not a forced draw, it's not something, it's just a technical draw because black can only draw this position. They cannot win. So if white loses on time in this position, it would be a draw. It's confusing, I know, because there's exceptions to every single rule. Second of all, don't get used to any pieces on the board. If you can only play with queens, take the queens off at the start of the game. If you have to play with rooks, take the rooks off at the start of the game. Get used to playing without those pieces, without that handicap. I like playing as black, so I purposely play as white so my level in white doesn't deteriorate compared to black. Okay, so I think that's enough. We've been going on for like almost an hour now. So I think that's enough of the chess lessons. I think I've bored you enough. Let me know how you think of this, and let me know if you'd like me to do more. Again, this is not meant to teach you how to be perfect master, grandmaster. You're not going to be Garry Kasparov. We are just intermediate level league players that play differently and think differently to the grandmasters. They see 10 to 20 moves ahead. I see 6 moves ahead. So, you know, there's no difference. There's no comparison. So, you know, I'm not a basic beginner, but I am intermediate. So, alright, so I will see you next time. Let me know what you guys think. If you want to do more videos, or if you want me to do more videos, I would be glad to. Just put them in the comments down below. Tell me what you think. What you want me to go over next. Like if there's a particular if there is a particular opening that you want me to go over. Okay, oh yeah, that reminds me. Thank you. That reminded me. Before I leave, I realized that I said in my one of my other videos that I said don't do the fianchetto because it's the most done, most used opening that everyone knows it and everyone knows how to beat it. It is not exactly the best. I mean, it's not a bad opening, but it is a I mean, it's not a bad opening, but it's so done that as soon as you do it to me, I know you're a beginner and I know exactly how I'm going to beat you. And I often do. So I realize I can't just tell you not to do that opening without giving you another opening to do. So I'll put this link to this blog in the description and in the comments below. read this, and it will teach you how to do the Sicilian Night Off variation. This is an opening that was done by Guy Kasparov and Nigel Short during the Chessmaster Grandmaster games. That was one of my favorite series in the 1990s. So I realize I can't tell you not to do an opening and I'll give you another opening to do. So study an opening, pick an opening, study it. Just don't do this. Just don't, whatever you do, stick with the fianchetto. Learn it by all means. Understand it, know how to beat it, then learn another opening. Because if you do the fianchetto, I guarantee you're going to get beat. And you're going to get beat hard. So there you go. It was on October 24th, 2014. Again, I'll put this link in the comments and in the description. Check it out. Click the video. And if it's private, I will unprivate it.
It's me, it's the weekend already. And I'm going to do Friday's lesson, maybe Friday and Saturday. I didn't do a daily video yesterday. I took a day off because I did.
Alright, so I shall see you guys next time.